Greetings from Grand Avenue United Methodist Church. It's Wednesday, which has become one of my favorite days because I get to spend time in fellowship with a handful of Christian friends. One group meets online using Zoom technology, another uses a conference call. All of the groups use the Upper Room Daily Devotion Guide as our pattern. We study the scriptures together. One of us reads the daily devotion aloud, and then we use the questions that are printed in the back of the journal to share our own personal experience, to pray for one another, and to prepare ourselves for our spiritual journey ahead. There's a link to today's devotion in the comments and description below this video, and if you would like to be a part of a small group such as that, just let me know. We can add you to an existing group, or maybe you and I can start one together. Today's devotion is written by Barbara from Missouri. It's entitled Coming Near to God, and in it she talks about her spiritual walk with Christ in terms of her experience preparing for a 5K run. She talks about the fact that in the beginning she didn't have either the strength or the stamina to finish a 5K run, but by walking a little and jogging a little, resting in between, walking and jogging and resting in between. Eventually, she built her strength, she built her stamina. She was able not only to complete the race, she was able to compete. So it is with our spiritual journey. We have to take baby steps at first. Maybe that's been your experience. That's the reason I'm here in the nursery. There's a bouncy seat here that toddlers might use when they are first learning to walk. We had one like this for Andrew when he was just a little boy. We put him in the bouncy seat and he built up his strength and got accustomed to standing up. He strengthened his legs. Then we took the bumpers off the seat and he began to scoot. Eventually he stood up and walked on his own. We've got to walk before we run. Sometimes we stumble and fall. That's been my mom's experience. She spent some time in the hospital recently and then in rehab. She's returned home, and although the doctors didn't prescribe one for her, she keeps a walker handy when she's alone, so that as she's walking, she can kind of steady herself. She won't always need it, but she finds it handy to have just for now, as she continues to build her physical strength and her stamina. I wonder what it's like for you in your spiritual journey. The questions in the back of the journal indeed invite us to consider this, to describe a time when we realized our need for a disciplined approach to a task or situation. How can you apply what you learned from that experience in other situations, even in your spiritual journey? What spiritual disciplines bring you close to God? And what changes do you see when you put them into practice? Then what happens when you lose focus on God? I can share with you from my personal experience. As we began this season of sheltering in place, during this pandemic, my life became a mess, both physically and also spiritually. I was very disoriented. I was waking up in the middle of the night with a lot of things on my mind. I would be so worried that I'd get up and start to work. Before long, I would look up, it was after breakfast, and I was exhausted. So I'd lie down and take a nap. In short, I was working when I should have been sleeping. I was sleeping during work time, and frankly, every time seemed like a good time to eat. I was a mess. Fortunately, I have spiritual friends who reminded me of some spiritual disciplines, some exercises that I've used from time to time in my life, and I began to incorporate those again. First, I rise early. I spend time in meditation to begin the day. Then I use a pattern of prayer that's called the Divine Hours, or the Liturgy of the Hours. There's a link to the tool that I use in the comments and description below this video. I invite you to use it as well. There are plenty of other resources that you can use, but in short, what happens is you pray at set times during the day. At the beginning of the day, midday, in the evening, and then again before bedtime. It's a pattern of prayer that has been used by Christians since the beginning of time, and indeed was probably a pattern for Jesus himself. As I've been doing that, I substitute one of those prayer times with prayer walking. Instead of reading from that liturgy, I have an app on my phone and I listen as I walk along, so I'm getting physical exercise as well as spiritual exercise. Indeed, those disciplines are like the ones that Barbara uses. She writes, "Distance running required disciplining my physical life. Likewise, we strengthen our spiritual lives through the disciplines of Bible study, meditation, fasting, and prayer." And this is important. Not to earn God's favor, but rather as an outpouring of our desire to spend time with God. How about you? What spiritual disciplines are you using in your daily devotion? Are you reading from the scriptures? Are you praying? Is there a group that holds you accountable when you are failing, that holds you up when you are falling? I hope that maybe you will consider becoming a part of a group that we're going to be organizing here. There'll be information in our upcoming newsletter about plenty of opportunities of ways that you can get involved. Or if there's something that you need that we're not already offering, just let me know and perhaps you and I can start that together. Finally, our experience may be like that of the Apostle Paul, who in writing to the Corinthians wrote, "Do you not know that in a race the runners all compete, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win it. Athletes exercise self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable one." As you are walking with Christ, I pray that you will indeed be prepared to go the distance. This is my prayer for you. O Lord, increase our desire to know you better. Amen. God be with you as you journey step by step until we meet again.